Welcome to the Alcomy Podcast, where care meets innovation. Whether you're an assisted living owner, a caregiver, a healthcare professional, or just someone passionate about creating better spaces for care, you're in the right place. Each week, we bring you expert insights, real stories, and actionable strategies to help you build, grow, and thrive in the world of assisted living. So let's dive into what's next in the future of care. This is the Alcomy Podcast.
So welcome everybody to the Alcomy Podcast, where care meets innovation. We're happy to be joined today by Andrea. She's one of the owners of Auburn Creekside Villa, located in Auburn, California. Andrea, thank you for joining me.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. We've known each other now. I think it's getting close to 3 years. I think you've been with us on Alcomy for 2, and I visited you. I think it was last October. Came out to your facility and did a tour, and it's just beautiful. You guys kind of built that from the ground up, is my kind of understanding, right?
Yeah, we kind of took a different route on how we got into the industry. We're family owned. My mom and dad were originally from the Bay Area. Now we're further up, kind of hour from Tahoe area. But we, my parents, placing their parents and other people and looking at facilities, kind of came up with the list of things they didn't like and didn't want to see in a facility. And we built ours based off that.
So those are your grandparents that were then in the facility?
Was that in the Bay Area?
In the Bay Area. Okay. So that's quite the leap though, from seeing placing grandparents, or in your mom's case, placing her mother or father, right? Like, how long did that time pass before it was like, hey, I want to open my own? And what were the things that happened that, if you could share, like what were the things that were like, hey, we want to do this differently because of this?
Yeah. So a little history. My mom, she wanted to be a nurse, and she was actually going to school, and we kind of joke in the family that she, in the middle of that, got 3 lovely daughters. And so that all kind of got put on hold, and they went and did their own contracting company. And my mom always had a love for, kind of realized too, she didn't need the nursing, the science stuff of it. Like, she just loved helping the elderly and taking care of them. And we probably in the 90s were starting to have to place their parents and other people. Like, my mom kind of very much of an advocate, so I kind of grew up with it. We were going to care homes, doing sing-alongs at Christmas time at a very young age.
Okay.
And then fast forward, they really got serious, and in her retirement wanted to this was going to be her retirement, and something fun to do. Finally getting to do what she wanted.
Something fun to do.
Yeah, something fun. They had done the industry they were in. They were, like 24/7 in contracting and electrical, but This is a different 24/7.
Yeah.
And so they built, it took 5 years from the time where they're like, this is what we're going to do. Designing the building, and getting through all the licensing and permits and all that, and working with our licensing. And it took 5 years. We finally had broken ground January 2020, and our first resident moved in November 1st, 2020.
Okay.
So, and then I didn't get so much involved until, we kind of joke again, it's a little bait and switch. My background is business, and my mom had said, hey, I had a 2-year-old at the time, that why don't you come up here and you can do the books, work part-time and you could be home with your kid, and I said, hey, that sounds great. I'll come up that way. And fast forward, 12 years later, I'm in scrubs. I'm out on the floor, fully learned the industry differently, and I love it. We were kind of different because I actually, had some solid staff in the beginning that were training me on how to do the logistics of caregiving and all the stuff. So we kind of opened differently. where, we had the will, we wanted to do it, the love and the passion, but we didn't have a lot of the experience per se of it. So there's, some hiccups along the way, but learned a lot.
So what did you think when so like your mom's retiring and now she wants to do this? Like, what was your perception maybe of like the industry, and what were your thoughts of your mom getting into this? Did you think she was crazy, or did you think like, oh, she's totally going to kill it at this?
I knew my mom, they put their minds to things, and they are very successful. They're very good at it, dedicated. So I knew they would do good. I knew it would be great. I truly had the TV vision of, you come and you see grandma and grandpa and you're sitting at the table and you're going to, play cards or knit. And it's just this cute little place, which I actually, when I'm interviewing people who are new to the industry, I make it very clear that while, yes, there are the highlights where you're playing cards and being taught how to knit, that's just a little part of this job. There's a lot more to it and behind the scenes.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say there is the misconception of that's what being a caregiver is going to be. I'm going to sit with my basically a grandma figure and hold her hand and do some knitting, and like you said, although that's true, there's great moments of that. There's also this other side, and I don't know what you think, but I feel like it's always hard to even describing that and telling that, like with new hires, right? It's one thing for them to say, oh yeah, that makes sense, and then they actually start doing the job. Of course, then there's like that switch. Oh, this is real.
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
And that's where, and because it is, and I try to be, I try to kind of sugarcoat it a little bit, but now I'm like as blunt as possible. I'm like, you will take them to the bathroom and they need and you will help and you will shower them. And we have some dementia. So then that's a whole nother thing. I'm like, one day the resident's going to love you, and the next 10 minutes later will come after you, and you've got to be ready for it. So it's just really what we also included in our process of hiring is we do kind of like a 4-hour, we call it a working interview. And so we put them on in the morning because that's the busiest time. And kind of is like, hey, you're going to watch this. And this is, and then after that point, you can tell too, no matter what, you can't fake it as a person if you're going to be able to do this or not. So,
yeah.
And so that kind of really works for us.
That's good. What and so are you looking at what are you looking for? Like obviously as they're sit there observing, is there some like body language cues or different things like that that are kind of pretty universal where you're like, oh, I know this is not going to work?
Yeah, it's kind of how much does a person kind of stand off and very timid in the corner? Like, how scared do they get when it's like, all right, we're going to the bathroom? Or do they want to, like, are they trying to help where they can safely without the training, or are they just like kind of like eyes wide open, like, what is this? And so you can kind of tell by their facial expressions and so how much they walk by. If they, when you walk by, you say hi to everybody. Are you going to talk to them, or are you going to just walk by as if you like straight vision? And not see?
Yeah, that's great. You can definitely see how someone's going to interact, and being able to see that shows who they are, especially, if they're that way, like, outwardly, oh, how's it going? Right. Then they're going to do that more as they get more comfortable being in the facility. Right. You talked about how like in the beginning you had like what's it called? You said now you basically what you're like, I'm just now more blunt. So what advice would you tell yourself earlier when you were being maybe a little bit nicer or less blunt? What kind of piece of advice would you give to people who maybe are starting out and of course wanting to trust people and wanting to hire people, what a piece of advice would you give yourself, or would you give them that process?
Well, from an owner standpoint, I think the way we did it, we're 15 bed, so we have 13 bedrooms. And we actually, in the beginning, my parents moved on site, and it's like, you want to trust people, but you have to earn. I mean, this is your baby. And I kind of put it, when I'm talking with people, it's, this isn't, because my background was business. I did, more accounting stuff. I was like, this isn't, you forgot to pay a bill and you've upset the creditor. This is a human, and you need to show up. You need to be ready. And if you can't do it, then this isn't it.
That's awesome. I want to go back to, you talked about how your parents decided to build there, and there's different ways that you could kind of get into the industry, right? You can buy an existing home and do a renovation, right? Which I was just visiting a customer earlier this week, and it was awesome to see what he did with an existing home to make things work. Then of course there's that build from the ground up, where you now have full freedom to design exactly how you want. Do you know why they chose to build from the ground up as opposed to buy an existing home? And then the other part of that question is, a lot of times people will get started in like a 6-bed because they maybe are afraid of thinking 15 is too big for them, kind of starting out. You guys went straight from not owning and running, and of course you were in the industry doing things, but what was that decision to build and to go to 15 right out the gate?
Well, I'm happy we did. I'll say that. I love this size. I would almost say even maybe if we went up to 20. But I think, and not everybody has the opportunities that we did, but if you do have the opportunity, build from the ground up. This is what makes us, not to talk too highly, but we're very well known up here. Auburn is a smaller town, but we have discharge hospitals we have the hospitals calling us. We have the hospice companies calling us. We have been so fortunate to basically always be full with a wait list. We don't use placement agencies. And it's because we have, and everyone says you are so unique. There's no one like you, because we built, again, based off what we didn't want to see. We just look like a very calm 7,000 square foot home. We're on 3 acres. We're one big, large, flat building. There's no stairs. So we were able to really, to make everything ADA enough approved without it looking institutional or like you chopped in. And I'm not putting down smaller homes. It's just, we had the opportunity to build it that way. And so everything, it's easy. The shower, we knew you wanted a flat shower, for example. We knew you would need grab bars, and just to keep it safe. If we could do it again, we need more storage. We grossly underestimated the kitchen and storage, and we should have built everything commercial appliances, and we stuck residential appliances. If you're building, go commercial.
Go commercial.
You'll save money in the end.
It's so funny you say that, because I was literally visiting someone yesterday, and we were talking about the washer and dryers and how much repair and stuff. And what I told him is, I said, I wish that we would have just, as much as we spent on repairing and buying new residential dryers, and washers, I wish we would have just bought a commercial one. It would have been so much easier. Yeah.
And it's hard to go back to, because I actually looked into it, because they're disposable now. You could buy the very fancy couple $1,000 one, or like the $300 one. And it's like, we just know it's every, couple year or two, you're getting a new one. And so it's just easier. I wish we could have, if going in building, because then you're not going back and trying to fix, because you can't just go buy commercial. You have to actually have certain stuff set up for it.
Gotcha.
And then actually I had a repair guy, because I was so frustrated. Our dishwasher And I was like, I don't understand this. Like, this is a good name brand. Like, why? And he goes, think about it. He's like, in your house, how often do you run your dishwasher? He's like, and he's like, how much do you run it here? I'm like, probably 4 times a day. And he's like, well, at home, how much do you run it? He's like, I'm like, maybe 2-3 times a week. And he's like, there you go. You're like tripling its usage.
Yeah, the use. Yeah.
But I love our size. We thought growing into this too, one of the big things was, we wanted to we felt like a 6-bed and there's 6 people. So we wanted a little bit more people. So it was enough to have a community, but we also didn't want to at least start huge because we wanted to know who you are. We didn't want to have to look at your, the pictures and make sure we knew who's what. So it's fun. Like, we have enough residents to where we can do an activity. We can have a little community, but not to where we're too big. I will say, visiting you guys, I mean, it feels like a home. You walk up, it feels like a home. If you're inside, it feels like a home. And even though it's got that ADL, regulations and things are set up properly, it just still feels like a home. And I do think that's cool about that. Is one of the benefits of being able to build it how you want. You're able to actually, conform it exactly to what you need instead of being restricted by, well, we can't move that wall because it's a load-bearing wall or something, something to that effect. So obviously that has played into your guys' success. What other things have you done? Because it's obviously not just the building that people are gonna, like you said, hospitals and hospice agencies are going to be sending you people. There's other things that you're doing. What are those other innovative things or things that, set you kind of apart there? I think it's, we're kind of, to me, we're very different on how we run things. We're here. Of course, everybody, you need to have money to survive, but it's not super the bottom line. Like, for 13 residents, we're licensed for 15, but with the 13 rooms, we consider ourselves full. We sometimes do share, but we shares just so. But we have 2 to 3 caregivers on 24 hours a day for 13 residents. And so that really allows us the opportunity to get to know and sit with the resident and talk with them and find out who they are. With new people, new hires, or when a new resident moves in, I better never hear you say room number 4 needs this, or like you don't know who that person's name is. Like you get a couple days to learn it, and I want you to be able to tell me where they're from, like where's their family at. So and as owners, we're very much here. That's what we get a lot, because a lot of places are like, yeah, no, we know so-and-so's the owner, but we never see them. Between us, we're here 7 days a week. We are the ones who will go to the hospital. We don't like to just send somebody off in an ambulance and say, see ya. And we will go, if the family's not available, then we will go with them.
Right.
And sit with them. And hindsight, we maybe better ground rules on that, because we learned some families, with the intent to do it until the family member can get there. But we've had the families like, oh, cool, so you're going to sit in the ER the whole time. Thanks.
Yeah.
Because we used to not charge for that at all. And because, my mom kind of really looks at this, and this is where her and I do good together, because this is her heart and this is what she wants to do. Where I'm like, yeah, I love this, but we also need to, pay the bills. So we do have to charge for some stuff. But I think it's just our very much hands-on, my phone, I'm 24/7 a day, 7. Like, the families are calling, texting me, and my staff can call and text me. So we're very involved. And that's something I don't think we knew we were going to be involved, but I don't think I did not quite understand
quite to the level.
I didn't. Yeah. Like I joked, I was like, they were in the 24/7 industry as like trouble calls. But we don't shut down here.
Yeah, holidays. What day? What is
What's
that?
a holiday? I'm like, what? I know. I'm like, oh wait, I don't have to bring my kid to school today. Okay, must be another holiday. And that's where you got to really be ready for that. And I would say to definitely for people who want to do it, like understand, there's times where it's your work than your family. And it's a hard struggle. I know I've struggled with that because it's to maintain the balance. Because to me, I feel if you're gonna be good and do this, like you got to be available and ready for the residents and their families. And I probably spend just as much time talking to the family member, making sure they feel good than I do with the resident.
Right.
So they feel confident, and that's where I get a lot too with the families. They're like, what, we feel so good that we can finally go on vacation.
Right.
Because we don't have to worry about mom or dad because you guys are here and we know that you're going to take care of it. And if something were to happen, we know you're going to be there and be available. So, which is good. Yeah. Good to hear. We did have a family kind of took it next level. They moved mom in, and after about a year said how wonderful and really pumped us up how great we are and how they feel so good, and then said we're now going to move to Scotland because we feel good about leaving mom.
Oh, sure.
So I was like, okay, Zion, I'm glad you feel so good that you don't need to be in the same country anymore as your mother. Yeah.
But what a great testament to what I mean. That's as a business owner, right? You set out to say, hey, we have these core beliefs that we're going to try to incorporate into our business, right? And then when you have your customers, right, your families basically tell you that, right? That's a really good feeling to know that you're living up to what you set out to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about, and it's true. It's when I was running facilities, we had little kids, and unfortunately, you're right. Like you had to, at times, it was the facility came first and family second because there was an emergency or something, something like that. And I think I told you the story earlier before we kind of got onto the podcast here, but there was a time where I had a resident that had fallen. Staff didn't do what I had asked them to do. That's the reason why they fell. But the date that me and my wife had planned that we hadn't had a chance to do that in a while, I ended up spending that time in the hospital with the resident, right? And it was and so some of those things kind of definitely those are the hard parts of the industry. I kind of want to dive into that a little bit more, just from the sense of I think that people on the outside come in and they think, oh, you can make so much money and this is great, but there's a mental toll that, right? Like being on call 24/7 and like, people that can make your staff can text you, your families can text you. My first question is, what kind of toll does that take on you mentally? And then secondly, what have you found helps you to cope with that?
Great question. It definitely does. It takes a mental toll, for sure, because you're trying, you have the work-life balance. You want to be present and available for your family, but you also need to, like, this is our family too. Like, this is right. We kind of joke, we're a dysfunctional family here. Like our staff, we view each other as family. Like, and we're just the residents, all of us here, we're just this big dysfunctional family. I think too, your sense of humor goes a little darker the longer you're doing this, because sometimes, and I'll say it to like friends outside, I'll make a joke and they look at me like, oh, what? Like, I was like, oh, we deal with death a lot. It's, it's part of it. But I would, definitely, and sometimes it's like, you got to kind of set your guide, like draw the line in the sand, because you do have to put your family involved, be there and take the time for mental health, because this is tiring when you're not sleeping for a couple of days because you're trying to be on call and available, but then you're trying to get to your kid's sporting event, and you just live off of caffeine and just smile. Take a vacation. We've fortunately, I have a very, very good floor manager to where now, between us. So now we do get, it's like, we kind of take the shifts. It's like, all right, you know what, I'll take, Sunday through Tuesday, I'll take a few days, you take a few days. And like, we put it on the board, like, hey, if there's any issues, you're going to call this person. And our floor manager, she's become a really close friend of mine now, through this.
Sure.
And she definitely, so we get breaks because you need to.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the great things. I mean, we had a 15 bed and 11 bed. I think that's one of the great things about you're going to get into this industry. I think a 15 bed size is great. Or if you are going to do like a 6 bed, having the goal to have, multiple 6 beds so that you have enough, resources to be able to kind of spread that work around. Because if it's always on you and you never get any relief, at some point, you're going to crack. It's just kind of the nature of things, right? What's that?
I'm like, yeah. Oh yeah. No, there's times I'm like, when you feel it too, you're like, okay, I need to go take a walk. I need to go outside because the next person that comes near me is going to hear it.
You got to have a lot of patience, and sometimes staff can be a little sensitive, and of course you don't want them quitting on you, which is another challenge, right?
Yeah.
So you've talked a lot about family and working with, your employees and the facility's family, but you also touched on that you actually, there's this dynamic between you and your mom, right? You guys are working together, which can have its good moments, can have its bad moments. We ran our facility. I had my location, my parents had theirs, and then we became partners in theirs. And so we had that dynamic of working together. And even in the business now, here at Alcomy, I work with my brother. So there's that family dynamic. How have you guys, because it doesn't always work for people. So what have you found that makes it work?
I think too, it's my upbringing. Because we truly can, and not many people can say that you leave it at the door.
Mm-hmm.
We had the family business, we're growing up too. So it was like, I learned at a young age that you leave it at the door, if there's a family issue happening, that does not come into work. And when you guys can be yelling at each other all day at each other's throats at work, or like so on a different page of, because my mom and I, we're very different. And we have different ideas of how things should be. So, which it helps us, but sometimes there's, it's a little awkward.
There's headbutting.
But it's also like when that time comes to leave, and if we had a family dinner planned, because with my sisters or something, like you got to put it aside and just be good, and we actually can do that. I don't think a lot of people can. Like I said, I think I was trained at a young age, like to do that, to kind of, but it's got its rewards. And then plus you want to keep it out because the staff doesn't need to be a part of that.
Right.
And sometimes they're like, well, with, like your mom says to do this and you say to do this. And like, so who are we supposed to listen to?
Who am I supposed to listen to? Yeah.
I'm like, well, who do you like more? No. And that's where too, we kind of come down, and it's where it's also good to have a third person in there too. To kind of be like, yeah, no, we should do this or do that. And we have pretty, our roles, I'm more with staff, my mom, like we joke, she doesn't even have the login informations for our accounting and our, our QuickBook, and she does a lot more of the family side, as where, and so together, we do have our own like kind of compartments and departments and stuff. I think, taking, and I think, technology, with you guys, we joked a couple months, probably it's been a year ago, I had to actually take some of her
Permissions off.
what she was allowed to do, because like you guys even were like, how did you manage to delete this file? Like she was deleting meds, she was doing something, and you guys were even like, how did you do that? And I was like, let's so I have it's called Nana's roles. So she has her own roles that she's allowed to do.
Yeah.
Because and she, but no, it works good. We try to keep it all separate, and I would say 95% of the time, like it works well. We kind of complement each other.
Well, I mean, it sounds like, like I said, I've visited you guys, and I mean, based upon what you're saying and kind of my history with you guys, it sounds like what you got going is just awesome, and you've made it work. I think one of the really important things, and I've had people from time to time reach out to me and go, hey, I'm working with my brother or working with my family, what kind of advice do you have? And I think you nailed it on the head there. Was when I think people have roles that are separate, right? Somebody's good at it, like you said, you're really good with the staff, she's really good with the families, and so of course you can overlap because that always needs to happen. But when you clearly trust that person to do what they do best, that's when things go well. It's when you don't trust that person and you start meddling in with what their roles are. Hey, what the heck? That kind of stuff starts happening, right? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you could go back in time, and if you could do one thing differently, what do you think it would be?
Oh, I know. I've thought about this. And this is where it's like the double edge. Like I wish I should have probably done more of a line boundaries where to a point, like I think that you do. I think to be successful, you have to be right in here, and you have to be you have to be available to a degree. But and sometimes you say things and you think people will understand, like, yeah, if you need to talk to me at 11 o'clock at night, like, sure, but it better be important.
Is this an emergency?
Like, I don't want to just hear something like, oh, mom needs more briefs at 11 and have full engaged conversation about it. So I kind of wish to a degree of it with that, just so like
setting some like specific rules about when to call. You just reminded me of there was the knock caregiver called at 2 o'clock in the morning, because we had our staff do a lot of the food prep, cut up things and things like that, and she called because she couldn't find something and it ended up being behind something else. All she had to do was just look. It's like, you didn't get this yet? Yeah, no, yes we did. It's right behind this other thing. Oh, there it is. and now you're awake. Well, plus, as you know, when you get that call at 2 o'clock or that call at 11 or anytime around 10 o'clock, there was a call come in. It was like, oh shoot, someone's calling off. Like, why else would you be calling? As stress levels go up, and there's a ringtone that my wife cannot hear because it puts her into it, because that was the ringtone that I had with running facilities. She's like, I cannot hear that ringtone ever again. So
Was she involved much when you were doing the facilities?
She was involved in the beginning, like helping get like the licensing paperwork and all that set up. She hired our original staff, and then I took over, and that original staff, I think the majority of them were gone within a couple of months. So she always jokes about that. But I think that's the other part of this is your spouses, right, or your partners, your significant others, they may not be involved in the day-to-day of the business, but they are involved in that roller coaster ride of emotions of, we just lost a resident, or this person just quit, or I had to fire this person, to the highs of things are going well. They're on that roller coaster ride with you, and from their standpoint, it's a lot less than they can do other than listen. So she was definitely like a therapist, if you will, a counselor, which is both good and bad, but yeah.
Definitely.
So you talked about, like, you talked earlier about how you before we got on, you were talking about like a call system that you used. Obviously, you use Alcomy as technology in your facility. Are there other things that you use, or how have you used kind of technology or things of that nature to help organize and streamline things?
Definitely Alcomy, obviously, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, at some point, but that's game changing. We have had a call system. And it's nice that, for all the residents, we tried to have it to where, there's no like loud alarms or whatnot. We have since, at least we have like little alarms on the doors so we know when they're opening and closing, but,
Right.
That's about it. And then, cameras in the common areas only.
Right.
That it's very helpful, especially when, it's, you're trying to figure out, okay, who's there, what's, and like time management with the shifts, like when is something needed or where did somebody, like who's doing what. And then it's fun to through with the staff too and start talking to them over the cameras, like scare them.
Did you start with cameras right out of the gate, or did you install those later?
Well, we installed them later. At first, we were like, not invasion of privacy, and we didn't really need them. And then we kind of slowly got them to where they're just at the doors, like so. And one of the kind of hindsights in building, we have a front door with a big window in it. But then our carport, which is where the parking lot is, it's most people utilize that as like your front door. And we initially would only have one person on the knock shift. And so when you're by yourself and someone's knocking on that door and you don't know who's on the other side, like some of the staff expressed, I don't want to open that door. And I'm like, rightfully, I wouldn't open that door. I've done knock shift, like, I am not opening that.
Any sound at night is like, whoa, what was that?
Yeah, knock shift's a different shift for sure. I have done plenty of them, but it's different. But no, and then so we kind of just moved it into the facility and common areas too. I think cameras are actually a good tool, to be able to check. And I'm not, if I'm not there, my typical Saturday morning, I'm at home having some coffee and I jump on, I first read Alcomy and then I kind of skim through some of the cameras and to kind of see where's everybody at, what's going on.
Yeah.
It's an easy roll call, who's in the parking lot, all their cars. So start with that.
So it sounds like the camera systems really kind of change things. Kind of like I remember when we installed the camera systems, it just was this extra level of like peace of mind just to be able to know what's going on. And I'm sure, having done this for so long, you would agree with this, but like I can walk into any facility and I can tell how that facility is run. I can just see what's going on and I can know whether or not they're on on schedule or not schedule. And it was very nice with like the camera systems to be able to be like, okay, because I always had this anxiety of, I got to run down there and make sure that everything's good, but being able to like just tap into the camera system and be like, okay, I can see that they're, I can see it's breakfast and they're eating, they're eating breakfast or they're wrapping up breakfast. So they're on time, things are not going crazy. Did you see any, also I felt like staff was a little bit more, not that like we were always watching the cameras, but there was a dynamic of, I think, holding them a little bit more accountable with the camera systems because now they knew that they could be checked on at any time, right? Did you find any of that as you kind of?
Yes. One of the big ones, we put it in our caregiver room. It's kind of, like I said, it started with the outside and then it slowly moved to the living, and it went to the caregiver room to really stop that he said, she said. That's my favorite.
Yes.
And there's three sides to every story. And so now I'm like, well, let me look at the cameras. Oh, well, maybe it's not that bad. I'm like, okay, well, no, let me look. Or you felt that the way you were spoken to wasn't properly. And I'll bring it up and I'm like, well, and I always start, I'm like, hey, sometimes the cameras don't catch it all, but like, this is where, can you tell me where you feel that this was incorrect? Then you've got, and we have an amazing staff and I do love, but you go through it too with the staff and sometimes there's not ones that are as good as others. And so then it's like, oh, hey, like so-and-so spends their whole time in the laundry room. And so you, so guess what? Now there's a camera in the laundry room. So you just kind of like add it to where there's like, okay, well, where are all the hiding spots at? So I can, I think it does. It makes the staff definitely feel that they need to be more accountable and watch what you say. It's funny. There's a few that didn't quite understand that there's volume on that. I can hear you. Which that was like mind blowing to a few of them. Yeah.
Well, I think the other aspect of it too is it's nice when, things happen when, even if your staffing ratios are like where you're at, right? Very, very good. Like you still are going to come across situations where, you find a resident on the ground and you're like, I don't know what the heck happened. And so you can go back to those videos and you can find out, right? They rolled off the couch or what happened. And so that's always helpful too. That's cool.
Just had that with a couple weeks ago. One of our little ladies, she's a lot of dementia, and she took a fall, and it happened to been with 3 people on in the morning, you're getting everybody up, getting them to getting them ready, who needs to shower, get dressed, get the meds, and getting down. So we don't have someone just kind of roaming the halls. And one of the little ladies, they found her in the middle of the hall, and I'm like, where she could walk what? So I actually went to go, and it looks like she was she didn't like that there was a garbage can across in the room where the room was, like in the hallway across from her. And she went to go kick it and like kind of did a little spin and went down.
Oh shoot, dang.
So I was like, well, it's helpful to, piece things together. What the staff or the residents are doing.
Cool. Well, the other piece of technology that you talked about, you said that part of your routine, I guess on the weekends or when you're not there, is you check the cameras, but you also pull up Alcomy, right? So, talk to me about your experience with Alcomy. Like you said, it's a game changer. Why is that? Why has it been a game changer for you guys?
So when we started, and of course, we're still small enough. It's, we don't have like what the huge places with the crazy high-tech computer systems and all that stuff. We didn't think that we could afford it, basically, is what it was. So everything was a spreadsheet. Our MARs were on a spreadsheet, and for each resident. And when you changed one medication, which, as we all know, happens
all the time,
especially if you have someone on hospice. By the end of the month, because you'd have to reprint it, do this, do that. And it was, it would be like a 30-page MAR for 5 meds because you had to keep changing the times. And that was, and you were calling, and I was like, I don't know. And then we went to community care, and you did a cool presentation, and I was like, I need to look into this a little bit. And it was fun too, because we joke, because my mom was too very much like, I don't like technology, like this, we don't need it. It's going to cost a lot, and what we're doing is fine. And then we come to find out, after talking with you, I was like, let's try this. And it was just putting everybody on for the MAR alone was amazing. Like, cause it's like, oh, hey, president came back, doctor, I'm like right there talking to the family. Like, I'm going to change this from 1 a day to 2 a day. And it's perfect. Then and then the notes, we had binders for, like, we had everybody. It's like, so it was like just probably like 4 or 5 lines with each resident listed. And so each shift had to document like what were their interactions. And then they were also supposed to always document how much did they eat, how much did they drink, and when did they go to the bathroom last. And that was really reliable on, like remembering that. And then at home, like I'm off. So then I'm bugging my staff, like, hey, how's so-and-so doing? How was the night? How was this person? And so I was really just bothering whoever was on the shift. But now I can just go on my phone and the notes section. I love all the emojis. the best to, the poop emoji. I'm like, you kind of made it fun because then people was like, oh, look, there's a poop emoji. But, to make sure, but that alerts us like when you have gone and it's like, oh no, all of a sudden so-and-so super cranky and you're looking through we're looking through our binders, pound binders. When did they go to the
trying to
bathroom?
go find the information.
And it's like, wait a minute, this person hasn't had a bowel movement in 5 days. Wouldn't you be a little cranky yourself? So the alerts, like you just real quick, it's like, hey, once you learn that it's there, take, the alert is there so you can very quickly know like, hey, these people have not had a bowel movement. This person has missed their meds. This person's not. It's just so centralized and it's so easy to use.
That's awesome to hear. I remember, because I think you've been with us for almost 3 years now, or 2.5, like something like that, right? And it's funny because I remember when you were first getting on, I remember you told me it was like week 2. And you're like, I thought this was going to be a nightmare. And she's like, but I wish I would have done this a year sooner. And we kind of talked a little bit like, what were the reasons behind that? And I'll never forget, you said, because we were talking about, you were like, yeah, they're just documenting much more. I'm like, well, how much more are they documenting? And you're like, 100%. And you're like, who knew that a poop emoji would get somebody to document bowel movements? So like kind of like that fun aspect of things, right? Like, hey, we have to do this. We have to do this, right? But we can make it fun, right?
Definitely, yeah. And the accountability of everyone's just so much more accountable. And it is. And one of the big things was like, oh, scary change. I mean, I can tell you, I hate change. Absolutely hate it.
Everyone does.
And that was a big thing too, coming into this industry, like, because previous jobs, you're driving into work, you're setting up in your head what you're going to do for the day, and then you can't do that here because that you don't know what your day is going to be. But back on I thought we had a lot of staff and a lot of people like, oh, I don't want to do this, like it's going to be so much work to learn this and that. And I was like, and then after a while, I'm like, no, because they were so resistant at first. They're like, well, I'm going to keep documenting in the binder. I'm like, no, okay, well, we'll deal with that separate. But then they kind of realized like, oh, wait, no, like you're texting. Another big thing we thought too was, like now we're allowing, because we have tablets and Chromebooks available, because you can't force it unless you're going to pay for the phone. You can't force them to use their phone. Right. But I kind of presented, I'm like, well, you're welcome to use this, but I can tell you it's better on your phone. And so that was another one of the big things was, oh, now we're opening the door for the staff to be on their phones. I'm like, well, I mean, quite honestly, they're on their phones anyways. No matter what you do, they're on their phones. Like, it's just kind of where the world is. So as soon as you can swallow that, but it's so available and the documentation is better. And that's another thing on those cameras. I'll call it out. And I'm like, I know how much y'all are typing. Like, you did not spend 45 minutes documenting, like, because it's like, they get the phone and they're like, oh yeah, no. I'm like, you're not documenting. There's a difference.
Yeah.
So it really hasn't, to me, that was a big thing I thought would be bad. It's been no different than what it was before. But it's just
but now you're getting more info now, right? And now they have less excuse because, well, now you can document on your phone, which you're on anyway, right?
Yeah. And they're talking, the meds, like it's, it alerts you if a med's not given, if, or you think that you're going to remember, like they're only supposed to take this med for 7 days. And then all of a sudden it's still being, 14 days later, like it's just the stop and the start times. It just makes it so much easier. And PRNs, you can put it into where, you can only have Tylenol every 8 hours. Well, then if someone wants to go try to do it, it tells you, sorry. So there's not the overlap of, oops, like, oh, I didn't know. No, it was right there. I told you you couldn't do it.
Yeah, I told you couldn't do it. Yeah, there's things built in there to help, right? To help reduce mistakes. You touched on something. You said, the that accountability has been raised, right? Like accountability among staff. I wonder if you could talk to that a little bit more, because that's things that we hear, and it's kind of been one of those things that we hoped would happen. But it's interesting to see how documenting in Alcomy actually elevates everybody to be accountable, not just one person.
Well, part of it, and it's kind of what we found, especially when you're writing in, paper trails, that you got the ones that kind of didn't want to, slack off, didn't want to do it, that they would, kind of find everything else to do. And then it'd be like, oh, so-and-so's already like using that binder, so therefore I can't actually document. I can't write that down because so-and-so has it, or I couldn't do this because there's only the one thing, or there wasn't enough room. I'm like, well, go get a blank piece of paper. So that took away a lot of it, because a lot of it was always blamed because the next person had it or was doing something else. But in it also, though, too, where, it clearly says this isn't, I couldn't understand your writing. So I thought, I didn't know what you said to do this, but I didn't understand what you wrote. So I just went ahead and did that. And it's like, okay, now you're going to blame my penmanship. Like, it is typed out. For me, from management side of it, we would leave notes, because of course I'm not here 24 hours a day. So like you rely on the kind of like the telephone effect of like each shift telling the next shift what to do. Or I'd have a piece of paper out, and I'm sorry about that. I'd have a piece of paper out and I'd write it down, like, okay, this level, this changed for a resident. For example, resident fell, so now we need to be in there 24/7. They would very much say like, oh, I didn't know.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it. I didn't get it. And even though you would say like, I know you read it, it's posted like right on the board. I tell you all to read this right on the board. And now you're going to say, I didn't know. Well, now I get to write it in the communication tab, and everybody has to hit read or unread. And so then there is no, I didn't know. It's no. Like, you read this, you said you read it. And if it's something that's, important, what's going on, like post it again and again. Like, so one of you guys was helping me because I was having a hard time with the communication tab, because I was scrolling back and forth, and they're like, wow, we've never seen somebody actually utilize this function as much as you do.
You're a heavy user of it.
I love that tab. I probably use that the most because I can get it all out there. It's not, but on the HR side of it, it's like it's open enrollment now for our medical. So right now I'm like, hey guys. And I'm actually satisfying that on HR side that I'm offering what's needed, and that, and so it's not, it's great for the residents, but it's also helpful on my part too. So I like that.
Yeah, that's good. So it sounds like it's still held true all these years, that you're happy that you made that change, even though you guys were you had a good paper-based or Excel-based system. This just took it to levels that you didn't even know were maybe possible, or took it to an area where it's like, I didn't realize that these things would make that big of a difference. Is that fair to say?
Oh, very. And then we just look, because again, like we're small, but we're not small. Like, and so it's kind of like when the doctors go into the doctor's office, how much nicer it is to just print the simplified med list and say, here you go, versus like back before we would send like 25 pages. I'm like, it was almost kind of embarrassing because we're trying to show you guys the meds, and they were all confused. Like, everybody was confused.
Yeah.
And so now it's, I love it. Like the different reports you can print, like we got the ones, weight checks. We got to do, so it's, especially, our heart residents, like they need to know that
blood
we
pressure.
got weights, daily blood pressures. And so it's very easy. Just print, nicely formatted. I'm not trying to like dig through a binder and type it out and make it look pretty. I just print it off. And then again, back to the accountability, it's a real quick, like, hey, how come it went 3 days without, you're supposed to do these weights every single day. How come I'm missing 3 days? And then Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so it's a real quick. It's eliminated so much of wasted time for me on looking for stuff and being able to
how much time do you think that you save a week?
Oh, hours, easily. So just in the like updating Mars alone, just in that, it's just so much quicker from what we used to do, because I mean it takes 2 seconds.
Well, think at the end of the month prep, right? You're like, I remember I used to calculate, and I often tell people I would, I encourage you to calculate what you're doing now, whether it's an Excel system or it's a paper-based system, like time out how long it takes you to get everything ready for, May 1st or whatever the month is, right? That is completely eliminated in Alcomy. There is no, I got to do this last minute paperwork. It's just all done automatically for you. And that's, like you said, time completely saved. Like we seen it statistically, we were hearing from people that like admins alone, like in a 15 bed, they're saving like 10 to 12, 14 hours a week just in their time when you add up all that time,
Easily. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then tracking everybody down again, like that communication tab, it's great because it's saving so much time. It's saving a lot of grief. I'm saving time on the staffing side of like I didn't know, or he said this, or you didn't say. Oh no, it's in Alcomy. Did you read Alcomy? Did you? Because it's there. You said you did.
Exactly. So, you said you did.
There's not a whole lot of some like
wiggle room to get out of the fact that you can only log in and you're the one that clicked the button. Yeah, for sure. Talk to me about, because you mentioned this a little earlier, how you called in and you worked with somebody on our support team. Talk to me about the support side of things, right? Because that's the other part that's important, and one of the things that we think about and we oftentimes preach is that this is not just about selling you a software. We want to kind of be a partner with you. We want to be available to you guys, and oftentimes it sounds like it's a sales pitch, but I mean I think you have. You've been with us for 2.5 years. You've heard that. You have your own experience. So talk about when you call in and you need help.
And we talked about before too, was I think if you want to sell a product in this industry, you need to understand you're not Monday through Friday. Because everything breaks on a Saturday, and it always breaks at 2 a.m. And I love you guys. I text you guys and I text you guys because I work all different shifts. Like and I even one time I sent a message and I just assumed that, because it was probably 11 o'clock at night, and I assumed that I would be picked up the next day. To whoever got, I'm imagining you guys pass the phone around. I don't know how you do it, but however it works. And I joked because you guys jumped right on it. It was like, I'm like, why are you guys up? You were even in a different time zone than I am. Like, you're even later than I am. But it is, you guys are always available, and you make it sound so much easier. You do step by step. You don't make me feel stupid, because I'm not super, if I'm not understanding the tech side of something. I love too that you listen, that hey, like, I think this would be helpful, like if you added a function. And I was just talking last week because I was trying to update some of the preferences, and you're like, you know what, we don't do that, but hold on, and you did. You got back to me, you got it fixed. I love it. I feel like I'm like your only customer. Like you guys are just waiting for me to call you with a question, and that's a good feeling. Like our call system, for example, like it goes down, nobody cares.
Right.
Like, they're like, oh, it's the weekend.
You gotta wait till Monday.
And that's even on it. And and I said, and we're so reliant on that for the safety of our residents. Like, we have to now pass out like tambourines and musical instruments to everybody to ring if they need help. No, yeah, we have a team. It's not just me. We have a team that's taking care of that, and happy to hear that we're all living up to what we hope to embody in the industry, which is more of that partnership, and that, because as most people know at this point, I mean, I was in your guys' shoes, and so I know what it's like
on a Saturday and you need something, or it's 6 o'clock and you need something. And, oftentimes it's just being able to, it's mostly answering questions, really. It's like, oh, this is how you do that, right? Especially as Alchemy's kind of grown. It's like, man, there's so many other things that it can do. And sometimes you just don't know that it's there. I think the alert on the bowel movement was the one that we were talking about a couple months back, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right over here. Like, oh, okay, that changes things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or Miss Meds. Like, it was like, oh, that's what that little bell is up there on the top. Because and definitely, I could say in the past, since we've started with you guys, it's definitely grown. And I love, and it's really well communicated. You guys have tutorials on how to fix it. What to do. What's so it's like, oh yeah, those changes are there. Like, we know it's. Do we utilize all of it? Not yet. I know we have the goals of doing it. I know getting everything switched, which the way instead of going backwards, what we do is we're going forwards, that with the new resident, the packets that you guys have available, that we just send off to the family.
The licensing forms and all that. Yeah.
Getting all that done. They're the correct forms. They're the newest forms. We are kind of doing that with the new residents, and then slowly we'll bring up the old residents to be all on there.
Right.
And our LPA, I was showing him, you always want to keep them happy. He was
that's where I was going to go next, because oftentimes, one of the other challenges that like most owners are like, man, this I can see how this would help, because I run the rest of my life on my phone, right? I run the rest of my life digitally, but I'm still kind of stuck in this paper or archaic system. But one of the challenges that they often think is like, well, licensing is not going to allow this, or what's licensing going to think, right? Because they're coming in doing an audit. So that was naturally my next question was your experience with licensing, and what do they say about it?
I know we've had a couple different LPAs, and basically whatever you do to make their life easier, they love. So when you're just, when he was looking for, the different forms that we had, and I was just like, oh, hey, let me pull up my phone. It's right here. Instead of like searching through binders and file cabinets. He's just like, wow, that's really cool. I didn't know you could do that. And I was like, yeah, no, it's all right here, and it's updated. It tells us, you set the reminders so you know when you're supposed to update your 602s, and get all that situated. So yeah, our LPA, like, he was super impressed, and which is cool. Nice too, because then you kind of get into showing them that, and then they don't, like, they get sidetracked.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep them talking. Yeah. No, that's cool. Just as kind of on that, do they require you to print that, or do they just, the fact that they can see that it's in your system, they're good with that?
He was okay, and when he came to, because we were kind of like, well, here's all of our binders, like all the paper, because we're not fully up to like all digital. So he seemed satisfied with looking at it. I think, and luckily we don't have any citations, we don't have problems, but I would imagine if we did have an issue, like, they'd probably want us to print it out.
Right.
Or maybe even have the original, do something. I'm sure if they really need to look into something specific, they would need it. But again,
which is the norm I've heard.
I figured out how to make my phone go straight to the printer. So you just go boop.
Cool.
Right there.
Make that even easier. What advice would you give to owners that are considering Alchemy? They're worried about, will my staff handle it? Is this transition going to be a nightmare, and we're not going to, like, it's just all this work is going to be on my plate, it's going to be too much, or licensing is, going to have a problem with it. Like, what would you say to them?
Just do it. Just
do it.
Jump in. And, because and it's scary. It is, at first. And I'm not going to lie, we ran, the first month, it was part of like my mom's still my boss, so I had to keep her happy. Like, but and she's like, we're running both systems. And I'm like, and so we did, we're still running it to, because just in case. And I'm like, but it was just such an easy transition. You guys were so there to help us. You, really held our hands with it, of making sure we weren't just led astray. And you kind of set up a lot of it too for us. Not so it was like what we weren't necessarily going from scratch.
Right. You're able to jump into the system much quicker, not having to do a lot of that heavy lifting of getting those meds or things of that nature in there. That's great. Well, we've loved having you as a customer. We love customers when they reach out because, even if you we look at it from the standpoint of if you're reaching out for a question, then maybe that's because it's not clear enough in the system. So let's go, what do we need to do? Right. So we love customers reaching out, and it's been great working with you over the last 2.5 years, and very excited to have you as a customer. I appreciate you kind of doing this podcast. I don't know if there's anything else you kind of wanted to share either on Alcomy or advice you'd give other people, anything there before I ask my last question.
No, like I said, I can't talk highly enough about Alcomy. It's so much, it's at your fingertips. You get to real quick, rest assured when you're not there on a Saturday or Sunday or whatever day, make sure everyone's good. And it's just saves so much time and headaches, and nobody can go back and erase something, or, it's like, there's so many stories I can say of when all of a sudden a page went missing because they didn't like what was written. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So no, I definitely.
Cool. Well, how would, before I ask my last question, how if people wanted to check out your facility, what's your website, what's your contact info, anything like that? They're looking for placement.
Our website's, it's our name, auburncreeksidevilla.com. I made it. First website and only website I've ever made, but I did it. So no, definitely check us out. I'm always told the pictures don't do us justice. So I try to update it as I can. Emails, again, it's in my name, Andrea at Auburn Creekside Villa. I really didn't think it through. I think I made the world's longest emails. I was doing it, but that's okay. It just gets our name out there, right?
Yeah, it does.
And so no, we're always there. If you ever do a tour, we love to where, again, if we're full, it's like, I tell everybody who calls, I'm like, if you please call us, if you're going through things and if something doesn't make sense, like I don't see anyone, we work together, all the facilities, we're not competition. We're all so different and we all have different needs. Because it needs
we can help each other.
Yeah. And I've told people, I was like, you know what, I'm looking at what you're saying, and I've met your family, and I can tell you either like they're too high functioning for us, or they're going to be bored, or they're not high enough functioning. So because you don't want to keep moving. Nobody wants to move ever.
Well, and you want to have those relationships with your quote unquote competitors or other facilities, because now you guys can place. You can become the placement agency by just, placing at a goodwill, right? Hey, this person's not going to work for me. They can work for you. Of course, that's going to come back to you at some point, good karma.
That first month's rent.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I like to finish, if you have a funny story, I think that this industry has, it's hard, but there are some funny stories and things that happen. And I don't know if you had one that you'd like to share, a funny story that's happened in your time of operating. Anything come to mind?
Oh my God, we have so many. We joke that we could be a reality show. Just, with the staff, in their antics with each other. And I think I love right now, we have the little love story, and trying to clean it up a little. They met here, they now love each other, and they're very open about it. And so it's teaching, having to deal with the families and explaining. It's quite, I can't get into it actually. So, but no, the stories are fun. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of blowing this one, but,
it's okay. No, that's fine. Well, I don't know if I've told this story before, but there was, we had one with an employee, it's funny and sad, but we had it where she literally quit in the middle of her shift. She left her shoes, didn't tell anybody. The funny part is that she left her shoes. She left her other coworker and never came back. We never heard from her again. It was very, very weird. I don't know what was going on in her personal life. The funny part of it was that she left her shoes. She was in such a hurry that she didn't even grab her shoes. She just left them at the facility. So
my first question is, why weren't your shoes on to begin with? But
that's true. I don't know if maybe she had, now after all these years, maybe she had like another pair maybe she had like work shoes,
and she was
and those were,
changing.
and maybe she was changing. Now, maybe it's not, maybe it's just normal now. Now that I think
Well, and
about
that's, I mean, and it's fun when you're like watching the ones who, you've got to be conscious of germs. But when I've like seen some of the staff at the end going into their cars and they're like dousing themselves in Lysol and changing, I'm like, maybe I should do that too. I don't know.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I know you're busy, and so I appreciate the time, and
Definitely,
I'm
it's been
looking
fun.
forward to getting this out, and I'm sure somebody will get something from it. So I appreciate it.
I hope so.
Okay, thank you
Right.
so much. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
This is Alcomy, empowering those who care. Owners, caregivers, they gon' get you there. Expert insights, real stories, and more. Real strategies to help you grow for sure. This the Alcomy Podcast. Creating better spaces, it's much to share. This the Alcomy Podcast. Help you build, grow, and thrive in the future of care. This the Alcomy Podcast.